So we're good to go. Once we're ready.
Okay, good to go. Let's welcome everybody to our Wednesday, March the 1st, 2023 Board of Selectmen's meeting. And before we begin, let's pass along our condolences to the McDonough family with the loss of Pete, a truly great guy. All right, you can open the meeting there, Mr. Antrim.
Okay, well, you just open the meeting, I guess. But I can make the opening comments. So we have some announcements. Winter parking ban is in effect until March 20th, 2023 from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. All cars must be removed from the street. Visit the parking clerk page at nahant.org or nahantpolice.org for more information. Excise bills are due March 1st, 2023. That's today. And water and sewer bills are due March 2nd, tomorrow. Call the treasurer collector's office for more information. Town elections will be held on April 29th, 2023. Nomination papers are available at the town clerk's office and are due back by March 10th, 2023. A full list of open seats can be found on the election page at nahant.org. Excuse me. Available scholarships. We are currently accepting scholarship applications for the Charles Kelly Scholarship, the Bob and Janet Munley Scholarship, Nahant Women's Club, and the Jennifer Harris Scholarship. Please visit the scholarship page for nahant.org for applications and contact info. And I meant to look at this page. Are all the deadlines for the applications on that page? Do you happen to know that, Tony? Or can someone make sure the deadlines are all there? I know.
Look it up right now.
Someone missed a deadline a couple of years back, and it had a TBD, and so they missed the deadline. And so I just want to make sure we got that right. That's it for announcements.
Mark, new business?
Yes, we have a motion to make. I know that Diane Duffy, town clerk, is on, but let me make the motion first. Excuse me for not being live video. I'm in my Boston studio tonight, and I'm having issues with my video. So, but let me make the motion in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 54, Section 34. I move to approve the discontinuance of the AccuVote optical scan tabulator and approve the purchase and use of the ImageCast precinct optical ICP tabulator to be used at the annual town election on April 29th, 2023, and all future local, state, and federal elections in the town of Nahant. The approved purchase of the cast precinct optical tabulator will be purchased by the town with funds already approved in the FY 2023 budget.
Seconded.
Discussion.
I know that Diane, the town clerk, is on. She can take it from here.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to let you know the couple of the reasons why we're looking to change out the existing voting machine that we have. We purchased this machine, or the town purchased the machine in 2010, so it's 12 years old. They actually stopped making a production of the machine in 2007. So for the last 2 years, I've received notification that, there are no more units being made, and all they have are the parts from people trading in to upgrade to the ImageCast, which is the one we're looking at purchasing. So the major point for purchasing a new unit is because it's old. The maintenance contracts keep going up in price, and they can't guarantee that if something breaks that they have the parts to fix it. Again, one of the things I was leery of is the concern that people have for voting machines. And so I've been assured that this particular machine has no internal modem or other wired or wireless network connections. So there's no way for it to be, sabotaged during elections. So basically, again, we're looking to put it into our funding for this year. And now it's just a matter of the town of Nahant Board of Selectmen approving the purchase of a new machine.
So it's not a requirement, it's basically because of wear and tear?
Yeah, it's because it's outdated and because they can't guarantee that they can fix it if it breaks.
Ah, that's
Currently,
good.
I have, so there's a box where all the ballots go into, and then there's what they call the tabulator that sits on top. And I actually have 2 tabulators, one as a backup, but in one of the more recent elections, one of the tabulators, the ballots got stuck. They did fix it. Was a mechanical issue, but this year we've only got 1 election, but next year we've got 4 elections. And I'm concerned with the system that we have now not functioning and not being able to hold an election because of the lack of parts available.
That's a good reason to replace it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'm surprised we are not looking at our Dominion. I'm only joking. No response necessary.
I have to tell you, I did look into, and there are no modems and there are no wireless connections or wired connections to the internet through the machine.
Roll call vote.
Josh Hanford, aye.
Marshall and I.
Gene Canty, aye. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, next is an appointment of a reserve officer. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the appointment of Rachel Davis as a reserve officer within the Nahant Police Department.
Seconded.
Discussion.
Chief Furlong's on the call with us. Chief, do you mind providing a brief statement on this approval request?
Not at all, and I appreciate the opportunity. So Rachel comes from, she's currently a Lynn police officer. She's resigning her position there. She's a certified police officer, fully trained. She checks all the boxes as far as, sorry for the dogs. Police reform and post C, which is Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. She's currently in the National Guard. She's previously federal Homeland Security employee. She's been at Lynn PD for the past 3 years. She's a new mother. She just wants to step away from the full-time hustle and bustle of being a police officer, remain part-time for now, a potential full-time candidate in the future. I worked with her when I was in Lynn, and she's a great cop. She'll be a great addition to the department.
It's a great resume.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like great credentials. Chief, could you explain to us the role of a reserve officer, when they're used, when they're not used, how they're compensated, etc.?
Sure. So they are on call. Typically, they work details. However, when there are open shifts that the full-timers can't fill, we will ask the reserves to come in and work. That prevents a full-time officer from getting forced into a shift. So it's a voluntary basis for the reserves to come in and work a cruiser shift. It's becoming more and more common now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so would they typically work more often in the summer for beach parking?
Yes.
And construction and whatnot?
Yes.
And then are they paid by the hour? Is that how it works, or?
Yes, they are. When they do private details, they get paid from the contractor that they're working with. And when they come in and do a cruiser shift or a special detail for the town, the town comes out of the town budget, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, as a reserve, do they continue the same training program as the regulars?
Yes, the differential training of years past between reserve and full-time is no longer because of police reform. So once you become a police officer, you're full-time certified.
Great.
And we've hired a couple reserve officers recently. What's the number of reserve officers?
Right now, we're at 16 due to post certifications. I know 3 officers that are in limbo that didn't complete their training, so they're going to be decertified upon come July 1st, I believe, of this year. So we are bringing some in, but we're also having some exit.
Mhm.
How many regulars are there, Chief?
Not enough. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't think you are.
There's 12, including myself.
Okay. Can always use more, huh?
Yes.
Chief, I want to commend you on the hirings that you've done as chief of the department, and especially, after police reform and the impact that post certification has had on the town. You've done a tremendous job bringing in great talent for our community, and we're lucky to have such a strong department of fine police officers, men and women. And a lot of that is reflective of your leadership. So I want to thank you for the good work you've done there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Likewise, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Tony, I was just going to say the same, but you said it well. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some minutes to approve. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from October 5th, 2022 and October 19th, 2022.
Seconded.
I see nothing in there that's out of place, so I guess unless there's a discussion.
I just want to quickly comment. I think it's a copy paste issue, but on both of those, I noticed it said that Mark was absent, but he wasn't absent. So just it's in the header of those notes. So if that could get corrected.
I think they meant absent-minded.
Oh, is that right? Otherwise, I'm happy with it.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Okay, we have a combined motion here for some event requests. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following event request: Nahant Youth Spring Soccer on Saturday from April 29th, 2023 to June 17th, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. at the Flash Road soccer fields, and the swim annual beach cleanup day, April 30th, 2023, starting at 11 a.m.
Seconded.
Discussion?
There's a note here that the volunteers for the beach cleanup will meet at the Lowlands parking lot and then go to Doggy Beach or Short Beach.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
There's some borrowings to approve here for the new fire truck. I move that the Board of Selectmen determine that the maximum useful life of the departmental equipment listed below to be financed with the proceeds of the $350,000 borrowing authorized by the vote of the town passed May 21st, 2022, Article 20 is hereby determined pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, Subsection 1, to be 15 years.
Seconded.
Discussion. Tony, you want to do that?
Sure. Allison, who isn't here today, our town accountant and finance director, spoke with bond counsel at preparing for upcoming borrowings. As you mentioned, this borrowing was approved at the town meeting last year in May. But bond counsel is looking for this additional information and certification of the board, approving the useful life. Essentially, so long as the useful life is greater than 5 years, it allows us to borrow over a longer time frame. So the borrowing is consistent with the useful life of the vehicle or the capital item that you're borrowing. Chief Antrim has explained to us that the useful life of the truck is 15 years. So that qualifies. And with your vote, it allows us to perform the borrowing in order to get the truck built and delivered to the town.
Yep, thanks. And I got that form that I can sign and bring up to town hall, drop off Kristen tomorrow morning.
Likewise.
Essentially, I think they just want to make sure that we're not doing a 15-year borrowing on something that's only going to have a 5 years or less lifespan.
Right.
But this will, Tony, this will be short-term borrowing for at least for the next few years.
Allison, typically that's how Allison does all of our borrowing. We'll basically do short-term borrowing on an annual basis to prevent long-term impacts of interest.
Right.
But for one reason or the other, it may be the dollar amount that we're going to be borrowing for. Bond counsel's requesting this additional vote.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Colin,
Gene Canty, aye. Ongoing business, housing production plan. Who's going to speak to that?
I'll start it, Mr. Chairman. I represent the board on this committee, but I know that the chair, Michelle Capano, is on tonight, and I'll ask her to, if you could unmute her, Tony, maybe she could give us an update on where we're at in this process.
Yep, she's unmuted. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. I thought Mark was going to kick it off, but I'm happy to start. So hello, everyone. So our Housing Production Plan Committee has been meeting over the last 6 weeks or so. We've done a review of the housing needs assessment with our partners from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And we're excited that we are going to be kicking off our first community engagement event next Wednesday, March 8th at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. Be an in-person event. We are, you should see some communication coming out over the next few days, and we're looking forward to having residents come and meet with the committee, meet with MAPC, and really help us come up with solutions and ideas to address affordable housing in Nahant. It's definitely an important topic. It's been talked about several times at Board of Selectmen's meetings, and we're really looking forward to helping put our plans together and really need that feedback from the community.
Michelle, I know it's an in-person meeting at Town Hall, which is great. Do you know if it's going to be broadcast, or Tony, do you know if it's going to be broadcast or recorded?
It will be both. It will be broadcasted, probably live streamed and recorded. So if you can't watch it live or attend in person, a video of it will be posted to our to the committee's YouTube playlist. But in order to participate in the meeting, you need to attend the meeting at Town Hall. You can certainly watch from home, but if you want to participate in the meeting, ask questions, provide comment, you're going to want to attend the meeting in person at Town Hall.
Yeah, and it's important to note, this is not like your typical, say, public hearing. This is going to be a very interactive activity. So we do encourage people to, there's communication coming out. You'll be able to register in advance for the event and then join us where there'll be, presentations and some activities going on. And I do stress it, do not think of it like a public hearing, but it's really going to be an interactive forum for the community. So I don't want to steal the thunder that's going to be happening next Wednesday, but we hopefully will have a good turnout.
One more question. Are people required to register in advance? Good.
No, actually, and people will see shortly in our communication, there's a shared website with MAPC that kind of showcases about the work that we're doing for the housing production plan. And registration is optional. It's just a great way of just collecting some information from the residents so they can still keep it informed. So we'll ask for your name and your address and your email address. So if you want to still keep informed about activities going on with the committee, this is our way of trying to capture that information.
Yeah, that's good. But I know sometimes people don't want to register, so they don't get emails and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm glad to
that's
hear it's
perfectly
optional.
fine as well.
Yeah.
And what are the dates again, Michelle?
It's next Wednesday, March 8th at 7 o'clock at Town Hall.
March 8th, 7 o'clock. Okay, great.
Thanks, Michelle. And I just want
Thank
to
you.
re-emphasize how important this is. Anybody who has been following the news over the last couple of years regarding affordable housing, people may think that this doesn't affect the town of Nahant. It certainly does. It affects a lot of our family members, our friends, public employees, a whole bunch of people in this town. So it's really important that we get a handle on this. We move ahead with it. And yeah, the other thing, Michelle, is there any way, if people can attend, and I strongly encourage people to attend because this is an engagement, as you said, can they submit questions through the website? Or
Yes, so they can email us directly at hapc@nahant.org. It's on, you can find our webpage on nahant.org as well, or you can reach out to the MAPC website. We just recently made some updates to our webpage on nahant.org, so some new information, including the housing needs assessment. So I encourage the public to go out and check it out, and please, reach out to us with questions. We are more than happy to respond and welcome the feedback.
It's interesting. I was just before the meeting doing a little doodling, honestly. And I was looking at the Housing Plan Committee, affordable housing, MBTA housing, short-term rentals, accessory dwellings, and everything else that goes along with this. And I kind of got reminded today that we also had, and this was a very late in the day phone call from Dan McMacken, that we also have the Coast Guard housing, and he said he would like to have been here this evening, but he had a previous engagement and couldn't make it, but he was going to ask what the current status of the Coast Guard housing is. And I don't mean to bring this up at the spur of the moment, but that's how I got it. And wanting to know what the time frame, if there was any sense of urgency with respect to that. I think he was thinking, let's not let Coast Guard housing get lost in everything else. So
It's
Tony,
not.
I'll let you respond to that, Tony.
Why don't I hold it for my town administrator report, so that it doesn't get confused in the housing production plan update. It's certainly something that's on the radar of the Housing Production Plan Committee. They're not quite, I think, at that point yet to be having discussions like that. But I can give an update during the town administrator report because it wasn't a item listed on our agenda to discuss. So I'll just bring it up at that point and give a brief update.
I don't like to throw that out at you either, without letting you know that it's coming to begin with, but he called, he said he wanted to discuss. In fact, I offered him the opportunity is provided everybody's in agreement to have him come to the next meeting and discuss it if he wishes.
It certainly, there's certainly a tie to the housing production plan process, given that that's town property, and a potential option to be included in our, as an option in the plan. But, generally speaking right now, that the future plans of the Coast Guard housing property has been determined by a town meeting, and that's the plan that we're operating on. It would require a town meeting vote to make any changes to that. And perhaps the Housing Production Plan Committee would address that topic in their plan. But like I said, they're not really there yet. And I don't want to, there's already a lot of confusion on the two, and I don't want to add to that. So I can give more of an update in the town administrator report.
Excuse me, I just want to interject for one moment. Dan also called me this afternoon and asked about this. So please do provide your timeline information, Tony, in your town administrator report. But my impression was that Dan was asking about this more from his role on the finance committee, considering that we're no longer collecting rent from most of those houses, and the loan is coming due in a year or two, and the question was, when are we going to be able to get these properties onto the tax payroll? My impression was it was more from a FinCom perspective than a housing production plan point of view.
It was, and you're absolutely correct. I should have stated that, but that is correct.
Mr. Chair, can I point out something? Can I point out something that Josh just said?
Yes, please, Dan.
It's not that we're not collecting rent. No, that's not it at all. We just stopped charging a monthly rent, and we instead asked the court for a judgment in the amount of the rent they haven't paid, because there's an argument that if they keep paying rent, we have to restart the process over and over again. So that doesn't make any sense. So what we have done just this month is start issuing a use and occupancy fee per month. And we did that because we didn't think it would take this long to vacate the premises, but it has, and it looks like it's going to take longer. So at this point, as of today, actually, Hall Management Company started issuing charges for use and occupancy per month in the amount of the rent they were paying.
Yeah, sorry, maybe I wasn't clear, but I really meant on the ones that aren't occupied. Obviously, we're
I see. Yep. No, you're right. Yep. Those are not coming in.
Okay, any further discussion? A vote, we need a vote. Do you want to take that?
No, so it's just a discussion.
Well, let's vote here.
Yep, no vote, just a discussion, trying to, raise awareness of that committee and their process. It's very important that community involvement is generated. So we want to try and push awareness of those meetings and ask folks to get involved and be part of the discussion. There's a lot going on with housing in the Commonwealth, and as Selectman Cullinan mentioned, in our town as well. A lot of issues that we're trying to address. So it was just a discussion, and no vote is necessary.
Okay, so we'll move that right along to a vote for open and closing the annual town meeting. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to open the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim,
Hi, Colin and I.
Gene Canty, aye.
Okay,
Motion to push the warrant. You want to make this?
well, since as the warrant is open, we have one change we wanted to ask the selectmen to adopt. I'm going to share my screen here. This is the Article 22 related to the Open Space Committee. We're adding some language to the article wanted to, as you recall, there's an open space and recreation plan committee that was renewed on an annual basis in the last article of town meeting, which is referred to as continued committees. And what this article is doing is actually inputting the open space committee into the town's general bylaws. So it will be a standing committee. It won't need to be renewed year after year. And we wanted to be clear in this article that it's replacing the previously authorized open space and recreation plan committee, so that there wasn't any confusion about there being two different committees, given that they have slightly different titles. So what you see there in blue and underlined is the new language that we're asking the selectmen to vote to approve and add into the warrant.
Looks good to me. I know there were several years when the open space committee was essentially non-operational. So it's good to see it back in operation. I know everybody on this board is dedicated to Nahant's open spaces, so looks good to me.
I would parrot what Josh is saying. It is great to have them up and running and going forward with some real incentive to do things for the town. Is there a motion made?
Okay. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to accept and close the annual town meeting warrant and send to the Advisory and Finance Committee.
Seconded.
Roll call vote?
I did want to make one point of discussion first, and Tony, you and I talked about this the other day, and it was some ambiguity about what the wording should be and whatnot, but the question of the properties with cesspools, and do we need an article for that? I just don't want it to fall through the cracks. If there's something that needs to be addressed, I want to make sure we address it. I know Dan's looked into this a little bit, so I don't know if we need an article or not. There was some question about whether it's 100 feet from the property line or 100 feet from the cesspool. So I just a reminder to all of us that obviously it's not on the agenda tonight, but if we need an article, I'd like to see an article, and that's it.
Let me just jump in on, I think, Josh, that our regulations, rules and regulations require, I'm not sure if it's 100 feet or 200 feet from the property line, but I know that Title V also requires a resident to hook up to public wastewater collection system if it's within 100 or 200 feet of the property line, I believe. So Dan, you could probably address that better than I could.
I know, I didn't think they needed to hook up. They needed an inspection if they were going to sell to most people. There are some exceptions to that, but I thought it was just an inspection that they needed. The 100-foot barrier or sort of diameter is actually comes from our bylaws, our sewer bylaws, in terms of the sewer connection section of that. I don't think it's state law. I think it's our own local law.
I do believe, I think Title V does address that, Dan. You can take a look at that, but I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay, all right.
How do we know what properties aren't connected?
Well, back in the 80s and early 90s, the town performed what was referred to as a smoke test, where they injected smoke into the system, in the wastewater collection system. And you could tell pretty easily which residents were connected to a collection system and which residents were not. There was a big effort in the 80s to convert, to make sure that everybody was complying with that. But there was some, particularly in Little Nahant, up on Wilson Road area, where the houses are down on the slope and the road is up higher, so that really couldn't make the connection. So there could be a few of them that are out of compliance. I don't think there were many in town, but there, as Josh said, there could be a few. But I think they all, with the technology today, they all should be able to connect to the wastewater collection system.
Again, the question is, how do we identify them and how do we go forward with that?
Well, the plumbing inspector is probably a good resource. And when you sell your property under Title V, you're required to ensure that you are connected, and that's another way of doing it. And I think the ones that have come up recently were properties that were for sale, and they had to comply with Title V.
Ah, that's one way to get it cleaned up. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, where are we?
All in favor? Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Gene Canty, aye.
We can skip the vote for budget amendment.
Okay.
Yes. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the fiscal year 24 budget and send to the Advisory and Finance Committee.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, we can skip that one. We don't have any changes to the budget from the last version that we sent to the Finance Committee.
I just noticed it was on there.
Yeah, I think we tend to keep it on there just in case we need it.
Okay,
We actually don't have any changes to present.
okay, anything on East Point, Josh?
Just that we're still in the discovery phase on the eminent domain case, and we're in the midst of people giving depositions. I know Tony gave one last week. I don't know who's scheduled in the next week or two, but that's what's happening from now until I think I'm one of the last ones. In my scheduled date is April 4th. So that's what's happening now.
And any time frame for anything?
I don't know exactly when the deposition then. I think I'm one of the last people. And the lawyer, so they take all these depositions and put their case together, and then I think it's heard in June, or they expect it to be around June. And that's this is for the portion where Northeastern is claiming that the conservation restriction is not for a valid public purpose. So that's the question at hand right now. And assuming the judge rules that it is conservation restriction is a valid public purpose, then we move on to the phase where we the pro tanto, the compensation amount is determined. But that seems like it's a ways off.
Okay, great, thank you. Tony, Town Administrator's report.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with Coast Guard housing. Quick update on that. As I mentioned, we're following the direction of town meeting. We've hired, first step in as far as clearing the land and removing the vacant homes from that land is to assess any hazardous material. So we've actually signed a contract with a company called Axiom, who's actually, they're also doing the hazardous material engineering work for us related to the Lowlands Ward Road Pump Station project. So they have been on site a couple times, and I think they need to come out a couple more times. Their role is to take a look at any potential hazardous material that needs to be removed from the property during demolition. So that'll include any, asbestos in the properties or the underground storage tanks. We don't know if there is any hazardous material in those properties yet, but that's the first step. And what they'll do is, based on their investigation, they'll put together a scope of work that will be included in the town's procurement process to hire a contractor to perform the removal of that material and the demolition. I don't have any real time frame to provide on that. But that's the latest as to where we are with the Coast Guard housing. Did you want me to go into anything else? on that?
No, I don't think so. I think what I talked about earlier with Dan is, and Josh,
Oh, yeah.
to find
One of
out a
the
little bit
questions-
better.
One of the questions that has come up at a FinCom meeting in the past couple weeks is, how that process overlaps with our requirement to pay down the loan, the outstanding balance, the 1.8 million that the town borrowed originally to purchase the property. And we talked a little bit about, would we have to go to town meeting to establish some sort of revolving fund, or would we need any sort of town meeting article this year or next year in order for us to manage those incoming funds appropriately? And speaking with Department of Local Services, we don't need a town meeting vote. We're actually we're able to collect funds from the sale and utilize and appropriate those without a town meeting. Actually, we don't need a town meeting appropriation. We can take those funds in and use them to pay off our outstanding debt. So we actually won't need a town meeting vote related to the funding mechanism and the process on that. We're moving as fast as we possibly can to process those properties according to the town meeting vote, so that we can pay down that loan.
Okay. Any other comments? Mark, Josh,
No,
Oh,
Tony, Northern Strand?
Yeah, so I want to share my screen again. The Northern Strand Extension Project, there'll be a virtual public meeting on March 16th. Participants must register for the meeting. This isn't a Town of Nahant meeting. This is a,
hey, Tony, the screen you're sharing is the nahant.org website. I don't know if you knew that.
yeah, so I wanted to show
Oh,
folks
okay.
how to get information so if you go to nahant.org, under community topics on the left-hand side, that's where we have a lot of, hot topic information. And Northern Strand Extension Project is right there. This is the page that provides information. We just updated it related to the March 16th meeting. Again, it's not a Town of Nahant meeting. It's hosted by MassDOT. We encourage residents to register and participate in the meeting. I think we have a Board of Selectmen meeting the night before. So we'll remind folks of this project and again, there's this project is, the proposal of this project is to install this section of the project, the last section of the Northern Strand, is focused on the intersection at Market Street to the Rotary. So this picture here on the bottom left-hand corner is a good conceptual photo of what the project how it would change the section of the Linway, that last section of the Carroll Parkway as you approach the rotary. Certainly something that, our residents have expressed some concerns or seeking additional information about. This is the meeting to do it at. So, please register and attend the meeting and provide comments.
Will do. Comments? Mark, Josh?
No, just as Tony said, be good for people to listen in on that, particularly commuters. Get your friends in Swampscott and Marblehead to join too.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Gonna be a longer ride home.
Yeah, Gene, I just want to mention that I think overall that the town is probably, at least I am, supportive of this project. I think it's a great opportunity. There are some issues that may impact the town. We tried to make those changes. I'm not quite sure we'll be successful in doing that, but it's better, as Josh said, join the meeting. It's better to be proactive than reactive. When, because when the changes come, I know that people are going to be saying, what the hell happened? And this is your opportunity to voice your opinions.
Is there a time frame for this?
As far as construction,
Yeah,
I believe they're hoping to break ground in the fall.
so they'll keep it out of the summer months. I take it.
The construction process, again, it's not a town of, it's not our
Yes,
project,
it
so I
will.
don't wanna mislead. I'm sure they'll get into that information in the meeting.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Let's talk about coyotes. Tony, you want to give us a overview?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we'd like to provide residents an update of the USDA wildlife program. Before I do, I want to remind residents of the comments we have made regarding the coyote issue in our community. The Board of Selectmen and I, over the past 2 years, have focused on educating our residents on how to coexist with coyotes. We're going to continue to emphasize how to prevent conflicts with coyotes and how to respond properly to interactions with coyotes. Meetings like the ones held for the town of Swampscott recently likely have emphasized many of the things that we have already done and that we will continue to do, such as hosting multiple similar meetings for the town of Nahant. We hosted Dave Waddles of Mass Wildlife in a community meeting specific to coyotes, and we have featured him here in the multiple Board of Selectmen meetings. Members of Project Coyote have presented in community meetings hosted by the Nahant Library and even participated in our May Day community event by having a table that residents could gather information and ask questions. We developed coyote response plans to educate residents on what they should do based on the type of interaction with a coyote and how the town would respond to that. We put signs around town where we believed there were to be coyote hotspots and included a QR code on those signs so residents could scan it with their phone and get more information from our website. The website we created features the response plan I'd mentioned, FAQs, a hotspot map, information about problem animal control officers, the limitations of the law, and tips for coexisting with coyotes. We distributed hundreds of air horns and whistles to our residents for free. We created a coyote-specific reporting form and used it for when we interviewed victims of aggressive actually all events related to coyotes that were reported to us. All this and much more can be found on nahant.org. Right on our homepage, there's a picture of a coyote on the right-hand side that'll bring you right to the page that I just described. And we're going to continue to advance efforts like these. Whether you are in support or in opposition of the town engaging with USDA Wildlife Services, please understand that we are not attempting to eliminate coyotes from our community. Instead, it is our only safe and effective option to deal with coyotes that do not respond to the hazing techniques taught to us by wildlife experts. We are speaking of problem and habituated coyotes specifically, not all coyotes. These animals cannot be relocated by law. When they behave in ways that jeopardize the safety of our residents, the town will deal with them appropriately and with the guidance of Mass Wildlife. We're not the first town to be authorized to eliminate a problem coyote. And the presence of coyotes in the Nahant is likely to continue, and it is our responsibility to follow the guidance of the professionals on how to coexist with these animals. Again, this is not an effort of population control. This is an effort to eliminate all current or future coyotes that have displayed problem behaviors or a lack of fear of human interaction. Because it is essentially impossible to identify a problem coyote after an aggressive incident occurs, Mass Wildlife has explained that any attempt to dispatch problem animals is a process of elimination. In other words, after taking some coyotes, you wait and see if additional aggressive events occur to determine if the problem coyote has been removed. This is the guidance that we've received from the state Mass Wildlife Department. Again, because hunting is not possible in our town due to its density and our local bylaw, because trapping is ineffective and less humane, and because relocation is not allowed, the town has hired USDA Wildlife Services to aid us in removing coyotes deemed to be a problem or deemed to be habituated by Mass Wildlife based on legitimate aggressive events that have created a public health and safety risk for our residents and their pets under their control. Also, because we fully expect the coyotes will remain in Nahant, we have decided to extend our contract with USDA for another year in case additional events occur that Mass Wildlife would deem to be the behavior of a problem or habituated animal. USDA's original contract with the town of Nahant was for 3 visits, and to date, they've been in our community twice, and they have successfully removed 1 coyote. We want to thank USDA Wildlife Services for their professionalism and utmost regard for the safety of our residents. In an effort to prevent conflicts or interference that could create another public safety risk, we did not disclose the specifics of the USDA's activity when it was occurring. And not being able to share that information with our residents was a difficult task. But I hope residents understand that it was an effort to keep you as safe as possible. USDA's extended contract will include 3 additional visits that can be used in the future if deemed necessary. And, we know this is a difficult situation for our residents and for other communities facing a similar situation. And we want to thank you for your patience and your understanding. With that, I will ask the Board of Selectmen for any questions or comments.
Thanks for that summary, Tony. I think you really touched upon a lot of important points, not the least of which is all the efforts we've made to engage the townspeople in learning about coyotes and how to deal with coyotes and how to coexist with coyotes, how to haze coyotes. It's really important for people to understand and accept that coyotes exist in Nahant, and they will continue to exist in Nahant, just as they do in every other town in Massachusetts, with the exception of Nantucket. We might not like it, but this is the fact. Another fact is that coyotes see small animals as a food source, and this includes cats and dogs. We all know this by now. So it's your responsibility as a pet owner to keep your pet safe. And this is a difficult message to deliver. If your pet is not on a short leash and is attacked, it's you that's putting your pet at risk. And I don't say this because I lack compassion for people and pets that have been killed. I'm saying this because I have compassion for and don't want to see pets get hurt in the future. Whether we like it or not, pet owners cannot let their guard down. If they want their pets to be safe, you have to keep your guard up. Letting your dog out into a fence yard for a quick pee at night is playing Russian roulette with your dog's life. So I know that it's not the message a lot of people want to hear, but these are the facts. I want people to understand and accept these facts, even if it's not what they wanted to hear. Coyotes are here, and in all likelihood will continue to be here. I can't keep your pet safe. Tony can't keep your pet safe. Complaining on Facebook doesn't keep your pet safe. Only you can keep your pet safe. Having said all that, there is an opportunity now to be part of a real and long-term solution by hazing coyotes. I know some people have tried, and it didn't seem like it yielded immediate results, but we have new animals. We will have new animals in town this spring, in all likelihood. And this is our best chance for all of us to participate in preventing habituated animals going forward. So this is my plea to the townspeople to work together to have a realistic solution to habituated coyotes. And to pet owners, to just caution you, it's not going to be a situation where, oh, we hired the USDA agents, all the coyotes are gone, and I can live carefree again. It's not going to be that situation. That's, I know, not the message a lot of people want to hear, but these are the simple facts. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Let me just add that first, I support your efforts, Tony, in extending this. Hopefully, we don't need to use it. I did participate, watch the Swampscott presentation the other night, and there was nothing in that presentation that we haven't already tried. It probably even more so. So I echo what Josh had said, that, you know, it's our responsibility. We're going to continue to try to do our best, but you know, it's a difficult situation. None of us wants to be in this position, but it is what it is, and hopefully we won't have to you know, exercise our rights under that extension of the contract. And I encourage people to, as Josh said, to continue the things that we need to do to prevent the coyotes from their aggressive behavior. So, thank you, Tony.
Could I just add one more thing? I just wanted to say that I support extending the contract for the year, and here's why. It took a while to get that contract in place. There were permissions that needed to be granted by the state, and so on. And by Tony continuing that contract, that allows us to respond quickly if there are any more incidences of aggressive or habituated coyotes. So, you know, before we had this agreement in place with USDA, when we had problems with aggressive coyotes, we couldn't respond for a couple of months until we could get this contract in place. So by effectively these, the USDA agents are on retainer. So they're not doing anything unless unless the town contacts them and said, we have an issue. So I think having the contract extended allows us to respond more quickly in the event that we do have aggressive coyotes. And, you know, thankfully, as Tony pointed out, we haven't had any recent incidences of attacks on pets on leash. I know there was one a couple weeks ago of someone who let their dog out into the yard. Fortunately, the dog survived, but it was attacked, and that's going to continue to happen. They need to be on a leash. It stinks. I used to have a small dog, and I know it's bedtime. You open the door, the dog pees, runs back in. Can't do it anymore, unfortunately.
And Josh, just to add to what you just said is that, you know, the decision to utilize USDA in the future is not a decision that'll be solely made here at the local level. That would be if we had aggressive events and we, you know, and we interviewed whoever was involved in that, and we gathered information that we felt, you know, met an aggressive standard. We would share that information with Mass Wildlife first before contacting USDA, similar to the situation we're in now. We don't have, you know, free decision-making power in that regard. It does have to be in coordination with the experts at Mass Wildlife.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
I also support the need to, and there is a need to keep the contract in place for the reasons that Josh gave, and that is to be able to respond quickly and efficiently on this. But I'd also like to see us work on a better balance of education versus elimination. Elimination out of necessity, education as a preventive measure. That's the direction we were going in at the beginning, with not using this as a long-term tool, and not as a long-term tool, and using it as a stopgap to get to where we are quickly. But no, I think the contract is a good idea. And I think the direction we're going in is a good one.
And if anyone didn't attend the Swampscott, the meetings that were held for the town of Swampscott, and I did not, Mark, you said you did, but I'm assuming that it was mentioned that the coyotes are in pupping season currently. And so residents should be on high alert from now really through March. We don't know where a particular den or dens could be specifically in town. So you really need to be on high alert, because coyotes will become territorial during this pupping season. So please keep that in mind. If you can avoid, you know, dark areas late at night, please do so.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just want to also report that this morning I attended the Essex County Chiefs meeting with Chief Furlong and Essex County chiefs and other legislators and town administrators. And we talked a lot about different legislative policies affecting municipalities and police departments. We talked about, you know, some specific issues affecting our town. As the chief mentioned, you know, post police reform has really affected towns like ours, where reserve officers are now required to be trained at a Bridge Academy status, which makes them eligible to become full-time officers. And so, you know, many of them, when they do get trained, they are extremely eligible candidates for full-time positions elsewhere. So it does cause a strain on communities like ours. So we talked a little bit about potential legislation to help with that problem, with that unintended consequence of police reform, without compromising, the intentions of police reform. We also talked a little bit about funding needs for public safety buildings, which is obviously something that our community is facing sometime in the near future. We're going to be working with the Essex County legislators on introducing some legislation that could potentially create a funding source or borrowing source for projects like that. So I want to thank Chief Furlong for inviting me to attend that meeting this morning. It was definitely productive, and glad I went.
Thank you. And thank the chief.
Well,
Where are we right now?
If
That's
Tony's
all.
done,
that's all I have for the town administrator report, unless you guys have any questions for me on other topics.
No. None here.
I.
Moving along. Citizens
Please.
Forum.
All right, please, I'll just remind anyone that's wants to speak during Citizens Forum to please state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. The first hand I saw was Francine.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have several parts to my question and what I'd like to say. I'm extremely disappointed because, as you all know, as you kill coyotes, you're actually increasing the numbers, and that is science, whether people want to hear it or not. So I'm curious to know, when was the coyote killed that was killed? That's my first question. Tony, can you tell me that real quick?
I don't have that information.
When is the USDA camera coming down, or is it staying there for the next year?
We haven't made a decision on that.
So this, as I understand it, the way this contract's going to work, when you think when there's been a report or whatever that feels substantiated, you're going to call in USDA and you're going to try to take out the problem coyote, which you have all already said there's no way to determine what the problem coyote is. So it's kind of like literally shooting in the dark and hoping you hit one. That's kind of what's happening, which makes no sense and is only exacerbating the problem. Okay. I'm just disgusted, honestly. What's happening with the proposal from Rebecca?
Sorry, Francine, I'd like to respond.
Okay,
Is
I'm
that a question?
sorry.
Did you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, please. And I'm sorry, but I'm really angry. So I'm trying to control myself, but I
understand, and I obviously know your position, Francine. I understand your frustration. Again, we're trying to deal with a public safety issue when it's presented to us. We're not saying that having coyotes in town is a general public safety issue. We are saying we need to coexist with them. When a coyote doesn't respond to the hazing techniques that the experts are guiding our community on, and they are not fearful of approaching or threatening residents and or their pets under their control, that's when we have a responsibility to our residents.
Tony, I forgive me. Let me jump in here. I totally understand that, and I'm on board with that. The problem is that there are no public safety threats, and all the reports were never investigated or substantiated, and they were even false reports. And I can prove that.
Francine, thank you for your comments. You've made these points before, and there's other people waiting.
Let me
Please keep it brief, though.
Let me
And
jump on to the other part of this question. So from
Hey.
Rebecca Dimitri submitted, is that
Hey,
being,
hey,
is that
hold-
under consideration?
Francine, hold on for 1 minute, please. If you wish to continue this discussion, let's do this in a controlled and professional fashion, okay? Please?
Okay, so what's happening with the proposal from Rebecca Dimitri? Is that under consideration or is that not going to happen?
We've received a proposal from Rebecca. Where it's under consideration. You know, we're considering all and any potential options that are going to help us advance the education and investigation of coyote, you know, related topics in the town. So it's one of our consideration.
Do you have any idea when you plan to make a determination on that? Especially, I also Tony, want to correct one thing that you put out there to people. Pupping season's actually going to be taking place. People need to be really aware more into April and June. So that's just to give people a heads up. I'm not trying to, I just want to put that on the table for people as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so go ahead, I'm sorry. With the proposal, it's one that's being considered. It would be great to get something in place before we get into this, so people are better prepared and we can actually get people educated in how to haze. I've been doing my bit to reach out to people, offering coyote scare sticks, offering to help people learn how to haze, been doing outreach to people. The dog on Tudor that was attacked, met with them, provided support. I'm happy to help people in any way I can. I'm willing to walk with people. I'll do whatever I can to support people. Lastly, the bylaw that you talked about at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, I've been looking for it on the website. I have not seen it. I emailed Kristen. I've been looking for that. As I understood it, the public was going to be able to review that. I cannot find it. Is that somewhere?
Yes.
Are you talking about the short-term rental? But,
No, the
No,
wildlife.
the wildlife feeding bylaw.
oh,
I'm looking on our website. We have a town meeting page. That all that information is available on. Let's see. Maybe under the town clerk.
Tony, if I may, I don't think it's a bylaw yet. I think that's a proposal.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
there was we were gonna be able to review it.
Yeah, as far as the reviewing it, I don't know, but I know it was a proposal for the warrant for this upcoming meeting.
yes. Francine, we'll send you the link as soon as I can find it. We have a page on our website where all proposed articles and backup information is available. If you haven't found it yet, then we need to make it more user friendly. So we'll find a way to bring it to the top, especially given, we're right around the corner from town meeting, and share the link with you.
Okay,
Tony, I know that you had proposed it when we opened the warrant a few weeks ago, and the Board of Selectmen voted to approve that proposed article for town meeting. So it will be at the annual town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
goes out in the books, goes out in the book that you get 2 weeks before town meeting.
okay. Okay, thank you. I just want to urge you, let's get a good plan and proposal in place to empower people, educate people, and let's do this right. So I would just really encourage you to make a decision on this proposal, and let's just get things moving. And I volunteer to help and support any way I can.
Thank you,
Okay,
Francine.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. Vi, again, can you just state your name and address?
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Vi Paddock, 172 Willow Road. So I have a question about parade trash. I understand that funds are actually raised to provide candy and necklaces and chapsticks and stuff for people on various parades around town to throw into the street. And so I've been watching this because the stuff washes down into the storm drains and then it goes out onto the beaches, and they're cleaning out the storm drains and they're finding all this plastic stuff and candy and wrappers. And I've been watching the last big parade, the Christmas time parade. We have so few people in town, there's hardly anywhere to throw the trash. There's anybody to pick stuff to pick it up. And I also know that there are other states, in particular New Mexico, it's actually banned it because children are inclined to dodge out during the parade to grab some candy. And I've seen some close calls in a couple of parades across the years. I wonder if we could, I would like to raise your awareness on this issue and see if, I don't even know who's in charge of all the parades, if we could stop doing this. What's happened is I've asked the DPW after every parade to go sweep the parade route, which they do because they're great and they do their job, but it doesn't do completely the job because there's still stuff left all over the sidewalk and still stuff they miss. So I'd like to raise your awareness to think about asking the parades not to throw this stuff in the street. My second one is, and this is, I have my swim hat on for both of these. The second one is Dark Sky. So Dark Sky is an organization that we don't want to get involved in. It's way too strict, but the concept is to not have so much light going up into the sky from Nahant. And we have these beautiful lights that shine down and they're great, but they do have a lot of side scatter. And happily, thanks to Tony and others, my particular light that's in front of my house that filled my house with light when they put on the new ones has been equipped with these little metal flaps that are installed with no tools, just with hands. They just hang around the light, around the sides of the light on all four sides, and then the light goes straight down instead of scattering out to the side. So you get to see the sidewalk and all, but you don't have so much going into windows and everything like that. I believe Tony said that, it's possible that we could put more of those out in various places. And in particular, I'd like to raise the Board of Selectmen's awareness of the light going up into the sky from the wharf. Coming in on an airplane, you can see our wharf, I don't know, from outer space, because there are a few lights that shine up. And I'd like to raise your awareness to think about the future of lights shining up and out. That's it.
Hi, Vi, it's Mark. I know that the lights that we install at the wharf are night sky approved. So that I think there are 4 stanchions that are down there, and I think they all are approved for night sky regulations.
Oh, that's good to know. They're still very bright.
Yeah, they're not as bad as they used to be, but
That's for sure.
but I think they all meet the qualification.
Yeah. And on your first point, Vi, yeah, it's a good point. I guess from my perspective, it'd be nice to figure out a way to balance the fun without the trash. Maybe a concerted cleanup effort after the fact, or maybe throwing a little less. But I know the kids enjoy it, so it'd be nice to find a happy medium there.
Well, one thing could be is no plastic. I mean, they're
Yeah.
throwing out necklaces and chapsticks and really big pieces of plastic. Although the candy wrappers are really bad too. I mean, they last forever too. They go out onto the beach and
Yeah, it's not that much that's
maybe
cool.
paper wrapped candies.
Yeah, but good point. So we'll think about that.
Thank you.
Hey, Vi, just a thank you for all the work you guys do on cleaning the beaches. In walking the beaches during the winter, you would expect to see some trash, just by virtue of the fact that nobody's cleaning it, but the beaches are spotless. And
Yeah,
that's the effort you guys made during the spring and summer.
Well, I think it's longer than that. It's about 10 years. What was happening was that there was old trash that maybe was 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. just watching swishing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And we pick
Yeah.
it all up. So all we pick up now is brand new. So it is a very happy consequence.
Yeah, even when it was down on Doggy Beach and trashless.
Oh, that's so good to know. Yay,
It works.
it
Thank
works.
you.
And people, when they see a clean beach, they're less likely to leave trash.
You reminded me of an issue I wanted to raise during the coyote discussion. The plastic ribbons that are being used as hazing techniques or hazing tools are a great tool that can help when you're approaching a coyote. But recently, folks have been tying them to trees, private property, especially around the dump, in an attempt, I think in an attempt to interfere with the USDA wildlife program. And, as I just mentioned, we're hopefully not going to need to use USDA in the future, but the negative effect of those ribbons, they don't degrade, and they're finding their way into the ditch system, into the waterways, and really creating I think, an unintended issue for us. So I just would like to publicly request that, if you're going to use a ribbon as a tool for hazing coyotes, please keep it on your person and don't use them as and don't tie them to trees and property, public property around town. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Rochelle? They are muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Capobianco, 131 Castle Road. First, I'd like to say about the parade with the candy. Every year we have our relatives come with their children. They look forward to the candy. I'm telling you, you don't find any candy the next day in front of my house. So the only problem I have with the candy is that they throw it too hard and it breaks. Gets all crumbled up and the kids can't even eat it. But anyway, about the coyotes, I've noticed that a lot of the people, the anti-coyote folks in town, don't even want to learn about different ways to coexist with the animal. You try to put information out there for them and they totally ignore it, and they say really mean things to people, and it's not been a healthy situation. The other thing I'd like to say is, how are these USDA hunters, which I'm sure that's what they are on their off time, these are avid hunters, how are they determining which coyote? By their stance, by their ears, by the size? How are they determining which one to eliminate? And well, maybe I should let you answer that question, and then I can ask my next one.
So, understand that I don't work for USDA and I don't participate in the program myself. As it's been explained to me, they do not. Well, first of all, it's not as if it's an automatic that they're even going to see a coyote when they come to Nahant.
Right.
And they really don't know which coyote could be the problem, right? So the way that it really works, and this would be the same thing if you were trapping coyotes, if you were attempting to trap coyotes too. It's a indiscriminatory method of process of elimination. And essentially, like I said, it's an effort to take a coyote or two, and then you wait and see if the aggressive behavior subsided. And if it has, then either you got the right one or the coyote that was involved in that previous event has left the community. And if it, and you don't need to go further, or if it occurs again, then you likely either didn't capture the right coyote, or there are more than one coyote, you
So
know.
it's basically a hit or miss. And these hunters, I bet, are getting frustrated, waiting and waiting and waiting to see a coyote. So they're going to shoot at the first one they see. They're not going to look at the observation, not going to observe the coyote. I'm not saying put a live animal out there to see, or a person to see how they react, but the coyote is not going to attack. We haven't had any attacks recently that I'm aware of. And I think it's a lot of fear mongering. I'm really afraid for these animals, and I'm afraid for the town, because we're going to be getting either transient coyote coming in. If you're going to kill off the female or male, let's say, the teenagers are going to start mating, and we're going to have 2 packs, not 1. I mean, and when there is an attack on a dog, I've never heard of them attacking a person, but will they need to be required to call it into the police, or notify you guys before you call Mass Wildlife, or are you just going to take their word for it?
So if an aggressive event occurs, we're encouraging folks to dial 911 immediately.
911?
Well, or the local police station number. It's on our response plan on the website. Because our police department is authorized to handle that situation immediately.
They're
Yeah.
authorized to? Okay.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, you know, our police officers are not trained wildlife professionals, and we're a very dense community. So, you know, it's quite, you know, to be frank about it, we're hesitant to, for our police officers to attempt to shoot or take a coyote in that situation.
But why not teach the officers? I mean, you know, Nahant is a beautiful town. I've only been here for about 4.5 years. I've come from Medford and Milton, and so I've lived in larger communities. They're not super, super busy with, you know, protecting the peace or whatever. Why can't you guys have them get trained on on the coyote issue, learning what to look for, instead of driving around haphazardly around the town? They're not catching the speeders on Castle Road, that's for sure. So
I'll politely disagree with how busy they are. It's quite frankly, it's a good point. We could explore it, but it's so unlike. It's hardly likely for us to get those calls immediately. We've been asking and calling for people to call us as soon as they have any type of event, and to be honest, it rarely happens. We did.
Because it rarely happens.
Recently, we had an issue that Francine and Josh had mentioned. A neighbor of the resident whose dog was attacked in their yard. Moments prior, a neighbor had their dog out in their yard and heard coyotes in the area. They called the Nahant Police Department. We responded. We were able to spotlight the coyotes and help get that pet back into that resident's home and avoid an issue. So there are times when it's an effective means to prevent some sort of issue from occurring.
Right. Okay. And I think it's important that the town get more involved, especially in the Facebook pages, to try to urge people to do the right thing and to listen, to learn how to coexist, because there's no way you're going to get rid of these coyotes. You might get rid of the couple that are here now, but we're going to have more next year and the year after. It's just impossible. I mean, they made their way onto Martha's Vineyard. Whoever thought they'd go to Martha's Vineyard, right? So, all right, so that's about all I have for that. My last question is the swim program, cleaning the beaches. Maybe Vi can help me understand this. I know you guys do the Long Beach, Short Beach, Tudor Beach, Doggy Beach. I live right on Black Rock Beach, which is Doggy Beach. I'm wondering how far up will they go? Because I never see them. I'm out there cleaning, maybe, well, I've got a bad ankle, but I'm always picking up large trash that's coming in from the dump in Saugus or Lynn. It comes on to my beach. It's a public beach. So shouldn't that be included in the swim program? That's it.
Yeah, I'll maybe connect with Vi on, expanding the effort.
We clean Doggy Beach every year.
How far up do you go, though?
As far as the signs where it says don't go any further.
As far as what? I didn't hear you.
Signs say don't go any further, private property, we stop.
No, there's no site says no dogs allowed.
Well,
It
we
doesn't-
don't go past those signs because we think that's private property.
It's not private property. It's
Well,
public.
maybe you guys could connect
Okay,
offline and see if
Okay.
there's maybe the residents in that area could volunteer and help expand the cleaning effort.
that's a good idea. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to air my views.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Brendan?
Yep. Brendan Baronic Olmsted, 2 Summer Street. I had a follow-up question about you proposed about some conservation lands and adding additional restriction. And I had a question about if there'd be impact to us performing engineering work for coastal defense. I know you'd said you hadn't had time to get a response on that. And I don't know if you had any answer on that.
So we're still looking into it. It's not, Dan Script Town Council is looking at existing, the deeds, doing some title research on the open space areas of those parks and determining whether they already have park protection through Article 97. If not, we'll be exploring a potential conservation restriction on those properties to provide that, passive recreation, open space protection in perpetuity. It's our belief that, coastal defense would not be negatively impacted by providing that type of conservation restriction on the property, but we'll dot the i's and cross the t's when we get closer.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello.
George?
Yes, how are you tonight?
Yep, just say your name and address.
Sure. George Mahovan, 64 Lennox Road, Little Nahant. A couple of questions for you, Tony. I just wanted to know what the update is on the playground down in Little Nahant.
Thank you, George. Appreciate you bringing that up. I just got a update from the playground contractor that the equipment is like 20 weeks out.
Oh.
So we're looking at sometime, late summer for delivery and installation.
Okay, great. Second question is, I didn't get to watch you guys when you had the couple of town meetings ago when, not town meetings, I'm sorry, selectmen meetings about the right-of-ways. I'm just wondering where we stand at the right-of-way at what we call East Point in Little Nahant.
So what we were discussing, George, was the town applied for funding through the Community Preservation Act. We submitted an application to the committee to continue the work on right-of-ways, identifying them and reopening them if they need to be reopened or dealing with any encroachment issues. So, please, if you plan on attending town meeting, consider supporting that application. It will help us in making progress on right-of-ways throughout the town. The right-of-way that you've brought up at the intersection of Little Nahant Road and Wilson Road, we have some legal items that we need to clear up. And Dan, I don't know if you want to step in, but there's the abutters there. We've I think have, challenged some of our legal standing on that right away.
Yeah, that's right. The way these deeds were written back in, I think it's 1910, when you look at the certification that's on file at the registry, they were written specifically to reserve the right of the right of way to the town. In that case, back in the day, it was the Nahant Land Company. Well, in every deed is written that way, except like 2 or 3, one of which is the address you just mentioned, was 250 Wilson. So there's some dispute over that as to whether actually half of that 5 foot now belongs to that property because of this apparent error that occurred 113 years ago. So one half of the property is not being disputed, the other half is. That's where we are at the moment.
So a question, why can't we just use the 5 feet that's not in question, put a set of stairs down there and use the 5 foot right away in the meantime? And if it gets cleared up, then we can use the other 5 feet. Great. If not, then we just have a 5 foot right away down there. It's better than no right away.
That's a possibility, George, no doubt.
Well, I'm asking where do we stand on that? Can we move forward on the 5 foot right away?
That would be something that selectmen have to consider at some point in the future. I don't know.
I've been at you people selectmen meeting for God, when Mark was the town administrator. I don't know how many years ago that was, and nothing's been done. It's just, can't we get something done in the near future? I mean, we know what the town owns. I'm sorry, I know the town owns, you're telling me the town owns 5 feet of it, then why don't we use the 5 feet of it? And use some CPA money to put a set of stairs down there, which were there once before, excuse me, to get access down to the ocean down there.
So George, as you know, we've had an encroachment issue on that right of way as it is. And I would like to have solid legal ground so that, the town doesn't invest in, reopening that right of way for it to be encroached upon again. I want to have that strong legal ground that we're in the right to do what we intend to do. And where the existing encroachment exists compared to where that 5 foot section that you're talking about, it's complicated. So I'd like to pursue, this legal determination. Dan, I think, feels pretty confident on where we stand before we take the next step. But, I remain committed to getting that right of way reopened.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you very much. And one more question. I had mentioned once before that down on Wilson Road at the bottom of the what we call the town stairs, which is another right of way, that at one time we had a crosswalk there, and then when they resurfaced the road, the crosswalk wasn't put back down there. Is there any chance we can get the crosswalk put back down at the bottom of the town stairs crossing Wilson Road?
What's the address on that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm sorry to say, I really don't know. It's, runs from Lennox Road down to Wilson Road. I'm not sure what the right of way is and what the number of the right of way is. Maybe Mark Holliday could help. I know that he was instrumental in getting.
No, that's fine. You're talking about the stairs that come down from Lennox.
Yes, we call them the public stairs, the town stairs. Call them that for the last 60 years.
I spent half of my youth on those public stairs, John.
Well, I know. I was with you there. Don't worry, Mark. It was a good place to hang out.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah. So I would appreciate it if we maybe move forward and getting that crosswalk down there, not maybe for myself, but for the younger people and some of the newer people that have moved in around the neighborhood. Sometimes they could get confused coming up the street, and they don't know where the town stairs are. But my main concern is just the children that walk up and down those stairs and getting across there, because I noticed with the abundance of cars on Wilson Road, especially in the summertime, they don't really block the town stairs, but they park right up to it. So when you walk from the town stairs onto the street, you're walking out between 2 cars, and and someone steps out from there, you're all of a sudden you're almost in the middle of the road, and someone, has the potential of getting really seriously hurt that way.
Yeah. George, I'll definitely take a look into it. Unfortunately, in the old days, you could pretty much install a crosswalk by request, if the town felt it was necessary. Today, you have to be a little bit more careful as to where you put it and if it meets standards, MassDOT standards or parkway standards, and really understand if you are, encouraging people to cross in a safe or unsafe area. So it's a little bit more difficult. It's not impossible. It's just not as easy as it may have been back in the day. But I'll definitely take a look at it.
Even if it was there before and you just try to replace the original crosswalk, it's still that much that difficult?
Well, you said it doesn't exist anymore, right?
Well, that's since they paved the road over, and I'm sorry that I haven't pursued this matter, sooner, but it was there. Like I say, I believe Mark Holliday was instrumental in getting the crosswalk there, and it was there for many years. And then when they did the resurfacing, whoever was responsible didn't put the crosswalk back. So I would have to say the town.
Let me say this, George, if the town, I agree with you, there was a crosswalk there at one point. Secondly, if the town administrator and the police chief feel that it's possible to put that back in there, I will support that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll take a look at it, George, and see what the situation is.
Okay, thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thanks, George.
Good night.
Good night.
Margie, again, please state your name and address.
Margie Parisi, 15 Prospect Street. I have a few questions. One is, when are we going to get more information on this one coyote that was killed? Are we going to find the date, the time, the sex of the coyote, and the age of the coyote? Where can we get this information? That should be information we should be able to get, right?
It's information that the USDA has. I haven't.
But you contract out to him, right? So they're responding to you. Did you get that information?
I just haven't requested that information at this time.
So do we have to do a FOIA?
No, we can get the information. If USDA has the information, we'll get the information and pass it along if that's important to you.
It is.
The other thing that, sorry to interrupt, Marge, but I just wanted to, one thing that we neglected to mention, Tony, when we were talking about the coyotes was, I just wanted to mention that the contract cost, the total contract cost for everything prior to February 28th and then March 1st for the next year is $9,000. Is that correct, Tony?
A little bit more, but we're billed quarterly based on actual visits. So it's a not to exceed amount.
So
if they don't do the visits, we don't pay.
So are you paying for them to travel in, like airplane, hotels, food, lodging? Is that what you're paying for? Or are they live in Lynn? I mean, where are these guys coming from? Or women, either one.
They live in Massachusetts. They drive out and they drive to Nahant, spend some time here and drive home.
So that's so Margie, that's the contract total not to exceed. So I just wanted to mention that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think maybe you and others might have wanted to know that information. So
yes. Okay. The other thing is I want to say how great Francine has been through all this and helping us understand coyotes. I never knew much about coyotes until I connected with Francine, and now I'm a big coyote fan. And I also think that she needs to be given a lot more credit than I think the town is giving her for everything she's doing for the coyotes and for people to understand how we should react to coyotes. We shouldn't be afraid of them. We have to be on our guard, but they're here, just like skunks and raccoons. So I want to give Francine a real hand of applause. Thank you, Francine.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Francine, I don't know if your hand is up again or if you've never came down, but I'll unmute you.
Yes, thanks, Tony. Margie, thanks so much. I really appreciate that because I've had to take a lot of hits here, and so I'm really grateful that, I really appreciate that. I'm doing my best. Tony, my question, is the town going to be transparent when they're calling in the USDA again? Will we know that ahead of time?
So I don't know. Haven't really thought that far ahead. I would probably be somewhat cautious about how much information I would give out, given the the public safety concern and the previous attempts to interfere with that program. So it's something that we'll consider. We haven't thought that far out in advance because we're not there yet. I imagine that if an aggressive event occurs, you'll know about it before I do. So that'll probably trigger the conversation.
I do think it's safe to say that we're not going to say the USDA people are going to be here on March 15th at 9 p.m. That information will not be made public for the very reason Tony just said.
Okay, and where the amount is becoming significant, isn't that something that has to be voted on at town meeting to approve an amount like that to be spent in such a way, or no?
No, I mean, our budget for the current fiscal year has been approved. We're spending funds out of our professional services account. The money's available. It's again, it's a not to exceed dollar amount. So it's not a must spend.
Okay, I think that's all. I guess I'll email you, Tony, if I have more questions.
Okay.
I just have one more question. When you said that somebody filed a complaint, and you said, I remember correctly, you said somebody didn't put their name on the report because they didn't want to cause trouble. Can we get a hold of that report? That must be, it's not open to the public.
So what I mentioned was that not all of the reports that have been investigated by the town have been formally documented.
So is that legal? You have to take that into consideration, even if nobody's putting their name and we as the public don't have access to it?
We're not required to document our investigation on a potential conflict. And if a resident, sometimes it could be because of fear of retaliation. Sometimes it could be, that the resident doesn't want anything bad to happen to the coyote themselves.
But then, so that report is not open to the public. It's just you have it and that's it. You're going on that report. Because I'm just wondering, can I get a hold of the report?
It's not.
If you're using that to make a decision for the town, and it's not out, and the public can't have access to it, I'm not sure what that's all about.
It's not documented. So,
Okay.
The conversation occurred, the information was shared with Mass Wildlife.
But it was not documented and I can't get a hold of it, even from FOIA?
Right, because, public record.
Why would you, that's, I don't know, it sounds strange to me.
A public record request is for public documents.
So this is not a public document. You're using an investigation to shoot the coyotes, but it's not public. It's not a official document. Is that it? Am I getting that right?
Tony, I think what you're saying is it's not a document. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't
So-
know.
So this doesn't exist.
Tony,
So it can't be
if I can,
considered.
just for a second.
Oh, Chief.
I'm-
Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I put my camera on. So his name is Lucky. He was found, he was abandoned.
Yeah, I remember he was on the Facebook. I saw him.
Yeah.
He
So
took it, yeah.
I want, he keeps jumping up on me, so I wanted to just to let
Okay.
him know on the meeting, but in regards to the records request, a lot of people, and I think this was Rochelle's point, a lot of people take to Facebook as opposed to calling the police department. First and foremost, I'm not investigating anything off of Facebook. If you have a concern, contact the Nahant Police, 781-581-1212, or dial 911. So if there's something on Facebook that says there's a coyote attack or whatever, that's not an official document.
Oh, no, I understand that, but
Yeah.
what Tony said before was there was somebody who made a report, but would not put their name on it, so it's not an official document. It's not, and so that's the one I'm thinking, even though it's not official, it didn't go to the police, it just went to Tony, can we get a hold of that? That's what I'm asking. That's
So
my question.
what I'm saying, okay, so Margie, please understand what I'm saying. It wasn't that their name wasn't on it. It wasn't, the conversation wasn't documented on the report. So there's no document to provide you from that investigation. It was a conversation with the resident. It may, you know, in one case, it wasn't just me that had a conversation with them. It was the animal control officer or others that spoke with the resident.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's not official, so I can't get a hold of the document. Nobody can. This is.
What is it that you want? What is it that you
I'm
want?
just curious. I'd
Specifically,
like to know what exactly happened from her or him or whoever.
So we
And also, if it's not official, how come the wildlife is using that to make a determination if it's not for the public to look at? I'm maybe something I'm missing here.
Margie, one second, if you would. How is the information you're looking for best service what you're trying to get to?
Because I want to try to figure out how come the wildlife decided that it was okay to, shoot a coyote? Like, what was it based on? If we're not getting all the information, we don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what is the criteria? And if somebody is giving information to the state that the public is not access, it's not official, it's not a real document. It's kind of like a CC sort of thing, you know?
It's not actually, and I understand that, you are in opposition to what we're doing. And I understand that there's been an effort to poke holes in the legitimacy of the town situation. There is no way, let me finish, please. There's no way that municipal government, state government, and federal government officials would come together on this decision if there wasn't a legitimate need to handle the situation. We had 3 documented incidents where pets on leash were attacked, some taken completely by coyotes while on leash. The documented information there you've received and through the public records request, and whatever comments or concerns or falsehoods that you want to claim related to those reports, we're not going to get involved in that. We later in recent months, as I've described, that are not documented. It's not that there isn't a name. It's not that I'm not providing you the information. It's just there isn't a document to back it up. Is that we had 2 different scenarios where residents in town walking their dog were surrounded by coyotes. There wasn't an attack, but there was coyotes that essentially cornered a resident who was walking their dog up against the building twice, 2 different people, 2 different dogs, 2 different buildings, groups of coyotes in a herd mentality circling that resident, and attempts to haze them away eventually became effective when the coyotes got super close. But essentially, they were outnumbered and were, in one case, able to knock on a neighbor's door and be let inside. Those incidents were investigated. We asked the questions that Mass Wildlife asked us to ask. We got that information, we shared it with Mass Wildlife. Mass Wildlife took that information and said, those incidents on top of the previous cases from June deem that you have habituated coyotes, problem animals that need to be dealt with. The town in that scenario, a very difficult decision for us to make there. Where I know that folks who are opposed to what we're doing would say, well, they didn't really bite an animal, or they didn't really bite a person, and so they're not a problem yet. Well, the town has to make a decision there. And we sided on the public safety of our residents and their pets while under their control. These were incidents, again, where the residents were doing the right thing. They're following the guidance and the techniques provided to us by experts, and coyotes did not respond properly. So instead of waiting for something worse to occur, given the events that have occurred in our town, and based on the guidance provided us from the state, we decided to move forward with USDA.
So there hasn't been a real incident in
Tony,
6
if I
months,
may,
and only
I
one
think-
coyote's been killed. So where's the other coyotes?
Margie, Tony, I think we've given this enough time. I think we need to move on to anybody else who's calling in. Do we have any other callers?
Rochelle has her hand up.
Hi, just one more question. What do you consider habituated coyote? What is an habituated coyote?
It's on the website.
I'm sorry,
It's what you go by Mass Wildlife's guidance on that.
I can't hear you.
We follow Mass Wildlife's guidance on that.
You can't tell me what you think it means?
I'm not a wildlife expert. That's why I refer to the state.
Okay.
It is
Because
defined
an
on the
habituated coyote
page.
is going to flee when hazed. So if they're saying,
Habituated really means a coyote that is not afraid of humans. And
not
that happens over a period of time.
I don't think we should get into an argument about the definition of habituated coyote. We follow the guidance of the state wildlife experts.
Okay. And when did you give out whistles and hazing things? I don't remember seeing anything like that. I didn't get anything.
We gave out whistles twice
Really?
over the last 2 years or year and a half. And most recently, we gave out air horns probably in the fall.
I bought my own air horn. I don't remember seeing anything from the town, but okay, I'll take your word for it.
I mean,
Tell me,
I'm not lying about it.
Okay.
I just think that we haven't had an incident in 6 months of a coyote. I don't know why you're continuing with this. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure it out. And I don't think there's actually, if you listen to the Swampscott the other night, they were talking about similar things where they had coyotes coming after them, and Swampscott didn't view it as a public safety issue. So I'm just trying to, what makes Nahant view something that Swampscott doesn't? I'm just.
Swampscott, we're not gonna interfere or comment on Swampscott's policy decisions related to coyotes or public safety threats as they deem necessary. They decide what's best for their community, and we respect whatever decision they decide, they make.
Now, you had mentioned earlier, if I'm not mistaken, that other towns or cities in Massachusetts have taken this approach. Can you tell me what other towns and cities have decided to eliminate coyotes this way?
No other town has utilized USDA. other towns, USDA Wildlife Services. The state has utilized USDA Wildlife Services for coyotes, most commonly to protect endangered species habitat. But other communities responding to a public safety threat by coyotes or a problem animal have not utilized USDA. They have utilized environmental police, their own law enforcement. Some have attempted to use problem animal control officers and utilize them for trapping. But as I mentioned before, trapping, according to Mass Wildlife, over the last 10 years, only 3 coyotes have been successfully trapped in all of Massachusetts in 10 years. So the trap is
Wow.
ineffective.
We've killed one in 4 months. So imagine in 10 years, how many coyotes are going to be eliminated here.
We're not, again, it's not a population control effort. It's responding to a problem animal. So hopefully, whatever new coyotes are born or come to our town, our community, takes a leadership role in hazing those coyotes, and they are trained essentially to be afraid of humans and avoid, and also, eliminating those food sources is an important piece to that. It's a lot of the stuff, the techniques that we've been talking about for the last 2 years.
I think the citizens of Nahant need to learn the techniques, the proper techniques, and be open and willing to learn. Now, I know you can't force people to do that, but you can encourage them. So
again,
that's exactly what we've been doing. We've been encouraging them, and I think the best contribution you could make to our community is to help encourage people to do that also.
Right.
And we're going to need community leaders to help out with those efforts. So that's the best thing you can do to protect the coyotes, frankly.
They just got to get the cotton balls out of their ears. That's all, because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They want a solution. And, every day I see posts. Have they killed any yet? When are they going to kill them? When are we going to know? It's
okay. Well,
yeah, that's why we've been stressing that, the coyotes will, in all likelihood, continue to exist in Nahant, and we really need to take this opportunity to haze them properly. All of us. It's not like, the Board of Selectmen or Tony or any one individual is going to be able to do this. It takes everyone's participation. So encouraging that participation is honestly the best thing that, coyote advocates could do for coyotes in Nahant.
maybe the town could, I know that we do a lot by Zoom now, but maybe we could do something at town hall, get some people in there and actually show people different scenarios and what they can do to make their body look bigger. I mean, I don't have much problem. I'm a big girl, but I know we have some elderly women who are very slim and, and it's harder for them. But maybe we have to do instead of virtual, because I think people like to get together. And I think now with COVID almost on the outs, we can maybe do that at town hall.
It's a good idea.
Hello?
Josh, we
Hi.
need a plan. We need a plan, and we need a plan in place if we're going to be effective. I agree with you.
Hello?
Yes, Francine, you are right
All
on.
right, we got it. One person in at a time.
Hello? George Mahoven here. I'd like to change the subject for a second.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, haven't heard anything about the Howe estate. What's happening with that? Has that been sold, and what's going on as far as the town? Are they going to be able to get any money back from that estate? And does anybody know who bought it and what their intentions are of doing what they can in that, that size lot?
Good question.
George, it hasn't been sold. HUD attempted to sell the property through the means of an auction multiple times, and that was unsuccessful. So HUD officially, I think, took ownership of the property because the auction was unsuccessful. Now HUD has the ability to sell the property directly to a potential buyer. And recently, you may have seen some activity there. They hired a contractor to clean out the property.
Yep.
So they have ownership of the property, and they're going to be attempting to sell it.
So when I saw something on, again, you guys know I'm not very proficient with the computers, but me just kind of farting around, excuse me for lack of a better word. I did see something that was sold in December of 2022 for $1.1 million. Is that maybe what the ownership changed to HUD?
Yeah, it technically it didn't sell. HUD has a reverse mortgage on the property.
Yep.
Or had. I'm not sure if it's past tense now, but so HUD actually didn't pay anything to take ownership. It was just a process that they were going through. If it's sold at auction, HUD, the price of the property would be divided amongst HUD for their reverse mortgage and the town for the taxes owed.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't sell though. So now HUD will attempt to sell the property on their own. And again, we'll engage in a conversation with HUD about, what percentage of that sale price is owed to the town of Nahant.
Yeah, I'd like to see the town get their money back if they could, obviously. So
I think Dan, that agreement is still in place, or at least conceptually in place with HUD in terms of what percentage we get.
No, not yet. We had some numbers laid out, hoping, I should say, that the property would sell at auction to an actual buyer. It didn't. So we're going back to our drawing board, but we think we're going to use the same dynamic and sort of the breakdown in terms of when this is sold. We did have some headway in working with HUD to get the current overdue taxes paid. And I think that's going to happen within the next week or two. So we're really just sort of squabbling over the taxes related to the senior property tax abatement, which started for this property in 95 and ended in 2019. So it's a big chunk of change.
So are we still looking at a 65-35 share?
It's something like that. Yeah, something around there. Yeah.
So I take it we're still in meaning we're in the ball game. In other words, we're trying to still get our money back as far as the town's concerned.
HUD is very cooperative. They're more than happy to work out something there. So yes, the answer is yes, we are very much not.
What about, I believe that when you guys had one meeting, you were talking about the town maybe buying it? Is that still on the table?
No,
not that I know of.
No, that's not on the table. So right now, George, the town's only involvement with 911 High Road is ensuring we recoup as much of those deferred taxes as possible by working with HUD.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, stay safe.
Thanks.
Hey, Tony, do we have any other calls?
I don't see any.
Okay, does somebody want to entertain a motion?
Before, Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I just wanted one final point here. I don't think there was a community in this Commonwealth that has done more about educating its public about coyotes than the town of Nahant. I'm not saying we can't do more. We can do more. But under the leadership of Tony, I think we have done more than any other community in this Commonwealth to do that. So I appreciate your efforts, Tony. I support you, and hopefully we can get by through this in the future. Thank you.
And one last thing for everybody's interest, from a note from a previous meeting, the definition is of a habituated coyote has lost its natural fear of humans. That's what a habituated coyote is.
Thank you, Mark. I apologize for any frustration I showed, tonight during this public session. I just, we have worked really hard on this, trying to do the right thing by our residents. By right to the coyotes that are not a problem in our community. And, we're just trying to express that, and, we'll continue to work on that, continue to make that effort.
Well, Mark said it better than it's been said all night, and that is we've done everything possible to mitigate this circumstance.
With that said, Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Seconded.
Roll call vote.
Josh Antrim.
Mike Conlon, aye.
Gene Canty, aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Right.